What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Gooner Channel January Transfer Window News Show, a forensic look at all the players linked with a move to and from Arsenal this January transfer window. By the end of last week, I was starting to feel a lot more calm about this transfer window. Going into the window, there was so much speculation and hype around the marquee signing that was going to come in and change our fortunes, win us a Premier League title. We had everybody telling us we needed to sign Ivan Toney to have a realistic chance of winning the league. His goals would make the difference. That's petered out. Today, Ivan Toney has pretty much confirmed he's staying at Brentford. There was never an approach for Ivan Toney. There was never an approach for Victor Osimhen. Kylian Mbappe was not seriously being considered, but there was so much hype around it that it almost felt like whoever we brought in was going to be a disappointment. For most of last week, the speculation linked us with 22-year-old Everton midfielder Amadou Onana, who is a great player. There was talk around the fact that we were going to offer Everton 50 million and they were going to bite our hands off just so they could not be charged with fair play regulations or profit and sustainability regulations. And that didn't happen, hasn't happened, and that has died down a little bit as well now. So towards the end of the week, we started to see far more realistic transfer speculation. Jarell Hato, the Ajax fullback and centre-back, outstanding season he's having. He's only 17. You could definitely see us being interested for him, and I think we are. Probably not, at least until summer. But there was also speculation linking us with Borja Mayoral, the Getafe frontman, top scorer, playing alongside Mason Greenwood, who apparently has a 20 million release clause. He, former teammate of Martin Odegaard's at Real Madrid, a product of the Real Madrid Academy, never made it there. But to be fair, lots of players don't make it at Real Madrid, and Odegaard's one of them. Trying to get into that side is going to be the hardest job in the world, right? I thought and still think he's a very realistic prospect for us at that kind of money. 27 years old in April. He could be the kind of player that really supplements what we have already, but I don't think he's the sort of player that anyone would come in expecting to win you the league in the way they were talking about Ivan Toney. Today, though, Mayoral was quoted as saying that he'd had no approaches, heard nothing. As far as he was concerned, he's a Getafe player, and that's where his focus is, and he's very happy. Now, he didn't rule out a move, of course, but it does point to the fact that if he hasn't been involved in the discussions, either that story's not true, it's a smokescreen, and we are talking to him, or it's true that he hasn't had an approach from anyone, and in which case, with half the window already gone, is this a deal we're hoping to rush to at the last minute? Is he an option that we're considering if we don't get people we're really after? Another player that I thought was really good link was Joshua Zirkzee, who is a 22-year-old striker or forward who plays at Bologna. And he's having a good season. He's not the most prolific striker, and he is still quite young. Another player you wouldn't expect to come in and transform the season. But he is a really exciting player to watch, one that I really hope we do go for. He was at Bayern, and when I talked about this transfer last week, it was around the price tag of 50 million. Some news outlets today are reporting that we've had a disappointment and we found out we can't activate his release clause. He doesn't have a release clause. The release clause they're talking about is the buyback clause that Bayern Munich have built into the transfer. If they want to activate that, it's 40 million. They get to sign him for 40 million. Everyone else, the transfer fee was speculated at 50 million, and I don't see that changing. And it does feel a little unlikely that we're going to spend 50 million in this January transfer window. But that's a far more realistic proposition than endlessly talking about Mbappe's and Osimhen's and Lautaro Martinez. If I thought that the transfer window had calmed down a little bit, well, today we're back to La La Land as far as I'm concerned. Two transfers I want to talk about. The first one is Gonçalo Ramos, the 22-year-old Portuguese international. He's played 10 times for Portugal. Most famously, he was the player who scored an outstanding hat-trick in Portugal's 6-1 demolition of Switzerland. He scored a hat-trick and assisted. His first goal was an absolutely beautiful blaster into the top left-hand corner. His last of the three was a simply sublime striker's finish, stroking the ball into the left-hand corner. Portugal absolutely demolished Switzerland that day, and he looked amazing. Of course, in the next game, Portugal played Morocco and he looked terrible and they were unable to score and got knocked out in the quarterfinal. Ramos is still a very young player, but he was in really great form with Benfica going into that World Cup. Huge profile, huge prospects. Paris Saint-Germain came calling and took him on a season-long loan. It was said that there was a mandatory buy clause at the end of that. That appears not to have been the case. He is currently at Paris Saint-Germain on loan. They have, however, triggered the buy clause and he will become a Paris Saint-Germain player in summer, which makes this transfer speculation absolutely bizarre. First of all, I would love to know if you know the answer to this. Please put it in the comments. If he's on loan at Paris Saint-Germain and they've triggered the buyout clause so that he becomes a Paris Saint-Germain player in the summer, but obviously isn't one yet, if we're approaching someone to loan him, are we approaching Benfica? If Benfica have already done a deal with Paris Saint-Germain, could we loan him from... This would be a tripartite agreement. Paris Saint-Germain would have to agree, Benfica would have to agree, and Arsenal would have to agree. And essentially what we'd be agreeing is that we take Gonzalo Ramos from Paris Saint-Germain where he's not able to get into the side because of Kylian Mbappe, and we play him, but then he definitely goes to Paris Saint-Germain at the start of the summer. I don't really get it. I think that if this was a player like, for example, Kylian Mbappe, yeah, I could see us definitely got a very high ceiling. But he hasn't done it yet. And so, again, this is another player you wouldn't expect to come in and absolutely shift our season. To really shift our season, you need one of the world's great players. And, well, fasten your seatbelts, hold on to the rail. The transfer window roller coaster is about to start. Through the history of transfer windows, there have been players that Arsenal have been linked with, but none more than the next name out of my mouth. Karim Benzema. It has been over 10 years that we were linked with him. It's almost a transfer window tradition to mention Benzema in relation to Arsenal. Of course, in the last few years, as he's gotten older, that's dropped off a little bit. And I honestly thought I'd seen the last of any speculation linking us when he went to Saudi Arabia at the start of the season. Karim Benzema is 36 years old, but he has shown no signs of slowing down whatsoever. So he joined Saudi team Al Ittihad at the start of this season. He's played 15 times for them and scored 9 goals, assisted 4 times. It's a goal-a-game contribution. Now, you might be thinking, goal-a-game contribution, fair enough, season. We would have to pay the rest of his wages, which is £42 million. Now, I'm not saying he's not worth it. I just can't see how he's worth it to us. Because, let's be clear, you spend the 42 million, at the end of it, you don't have anything to show for it. If he hasn't won us, I mean, if he's come in and scored a goal a game and we've won the Premier League, definitely worth it. But if he hasn't, you've basically wasted the money you could have used to buy a player like Gerald Hato or Joshua Zirkzee, or a player like that you could have for 4 or 5 years. And there's no amortization of a 42 million in 6 months. That's just going to be outgoing. So in a time where we're possibly constrained by profit and sustainability regulations, does this make sense to anyone? Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see Karim Benzema finally play for Arsenal. And who knows, lift the Premier League title or the Champions League. He's got pedigree. There is a big part of me that wants this to be true. There is a huge part of me that wants this to go ahead. It's been reported by La Marca. There are various news sources that are running with it, but it is highly speculative to say the least. And I don't think it's going to happen. So today, the 2 massive ones, Gonzalo Ramos and Karim Benzema, 2 names that would definitely be welcome additions to the Arsenal squad, but in my opinion, hugely unlikely. Let me know in the comments if you've heard any more outlandish ones than that. And we will be back tomorrow with another forensic look at the Arsenal January transfer window. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks so much, guys, for the likes and subscribes. Thank you so much for the comments. Until I see you tomorrow, be lucky and lots of love.
You're traveling through another dimension. A dimension not only of sight and sound, but of mind. A journey into a wondrous land whose boundaries are that of imagination. That's the signpost up ahead. Your next stop.
The Arsenal January Transfer Window News Show.